my earbuds in.
Oh my gosh.
What was that?
I have no idea. I just used Zoom this morning and I'm trying to troubleshoot. I'm going through it. I'm like,
and you're a guest talking to me and we're troubleshooting. Hi, everybody. Usually I do the intro before I let my wonderful guest in, but let me just say for a couple of minutes, this is Jess McAuley, who is a performer and writer out of Niagara. And she is also the co-host of the podcast, The Introverts Guide to ... And you've also produced 3 of your own shows, right?
I have. Yeah.
With
it was
your
under.
New Twist Theater Collective.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, sorry, everybody, but it's sorry to you, Jess. This has never happened to me before.
I was really interesting. I was just sitting there and I'm like sitting there waiting, like I got my water and I'm like, she's really taking her time with this. Okay, cool.
How long is this intro supposed to take?
Oh, I know. I'm like, I'd really like to be there to see what she's saying about me. Like,
but these are the things, right? That especially if you deal with anxiety on any kind of regular basis, these things can really throw you. And I have to say that I think for a couple of people who deal with anxiety that we have done pretty well.
I think so. Like, and one of the things I do is I absolutely make sure that reassurance is in there. So even while we were chatting I am one of those people that needs to be reassured. So therefore I need to reassure everybody else. So yeah, it absolutely, when things go wrong, just it's okay.
Do you over apologize at all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That I don't think I can say I'm sorry enough. And it's so ridiculous when you think about it, because if you're on the outside looking in on what would I say to somebody who was dealing with what we were dealing with and troubleshooting, I would say it's no big deal and technology happens and go with it. But I'm not nearly as easygoing as I would pretend to be for somebody else.
Absolutely. No, for sure. Like, I feel like I have to over explain it. I'm absolutely there. Like, it's not you. It's not you.
Well, I can't believe for a second that we're alone in this, with this insanity of the last few months. And I don't know how many Zoom calls you've been on, but I've been on plenty. And if it's not camera malfunctions or, somebody not using the mute or using the mute.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the world that we live in now. How have you been managing over the last few months?
Well, Zoom has definitely been a huge part of it.
Yeah.
I actually had a couple of deaths within the family that were sort of, it was really hard to cope with at times, especially because you can't physically be within the space to be like, to comfort and grieve with the people that mean the most to you. Right.
Right.
Unfortunately it was my nanny that was in a nursing home. So we couldn't be there for her. And then a couple of weeks later, it was my uncle, which was my nanny's youngest. Aww. So it was really tough. But in terms of trying to communicate, getting into this new, I don't know, this new avenue of communication, it's certainly been weighing in on my mental health. Mm-hmm. I find that people really at the beginning wanted to keep Zooming, checking in. And for me, it was I'm an introvert. I'm already doing okay. Mm-hmm. How are you? And I think I just got weighed down by all the Zoom calls and all the Zoom meetings. Yes. And finally we've weighed in on this plateau where everyone's just, okay, we're okay right now for now, but it's uncertain, especially with things that are opening up right now. It's too soon. Kids going back to school. It's a lot of anxiety for parents. And
yep. And you can't help, and even if it doesn't impact you directly, it's sort of the anxiety of the world, I think, that still kind of plagues us, those of us that, deal with this kind of anxiety. Do you find, being an introvert, so you're just sort of alluding to the fact that there was lots of Zoom and lots of connection and lots of, checking in. Yeah. Did you find that you were seeing and talking to people that you wouldn't ordinarily see and talk to? You know what I mean?
Sort of. Yeah, sort of. I mean, I had maybe a couple of friends that I hadn't talked to in a long time, and they just suddenly found themselves wanting to check in. And it was how do I connect with you right now? Like, you weren't already in my circle. Yeah. So like, what do I say to you? I mean, obviously we're both going through this pandemic, but that's all that we have in common at the moment.
Because I found that there was almost like this clamoring for connection with as many people as possible. And I'm not sure if I did it myself, but I did experience people sort of, popping up, and it was all with good intention.
Yeah.
But I'm often wondering, is this going to be kind of the new normal? Or is this going to be our main way of communicating, even when we can get beyond our bubbles? It's just a whole new way of connecting.
Mm-hmm. There's this void right now in
Yeah.
our own personal spaces, and I think with this pandemic, it's certainly caused me to meditate more on my social circles, who is in my life. Meditation has always been within my vocabulary. It's never been something I actually have enacted in myself. And with this pandemic, I find myself actually saying, just taking a moment to breathe and say, do I need to interact right now? Do I need this? No, I
Right.
don't. Yes, I do. Whereas I've been encouraging more people that have been finding themselves inundated with interactions to ask themselves, do you need it though? Like, it is still about what you need. There is boundary there that shouldn't be crossed.
Yeah, and that's really a thoughtful thing to say, because I often wonder if people are communicating because they think they have to.
Exactly. There's just silence, and it's okay to be silent.
Is silence something that, I can't think of a better way to put it, but is silence something that you subscribe to help manage your anxiety in general?
It's really strange that you mentioned that. That's actually something I've been thinking about a lot, because I am absolutely 100% an introvert. I mentioned that because when I was a kid, I always got called too chatty.
Okay.
And yet I was very much okay with just playing on my own, being on my own, but I always needed something in the background. I always needed to talk. And when it was too quiet for too long, I got uncomfortable. I think for me, that was early symptoms of anxiety popping up. And now as I get older and I'm navigating my life right now, and the things that are working for me, what's not working for me, I find silence so healing now. And especially that we're entering into this beautiful new phase of life. I'm going to look on the bright side with this, that I am enjoying the silence. I'm enjoying the quiet and thinking about what I need. So maybe a long time ago, I would have needed more noise. And I think that's where people may have thought I was an extrovert, but taking into account where it overlaps with my anxiety and my depression, silence is everything right now.
It's a beautiful thing. It can be, if you can make friends with the voices in your head, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I've started to do, and thinking about silence as well, is make friends a little bit with the chaos in my brain, because it doesn't seem to be going away, but I can mute it a little bit more than maybe I could have even 6 months ago. I probably wouldn't even have thought about muting it 6 months ago, because it got really loud there in the beginning of the pandemic because of all the panic and all of, the uncertainty. The voices got really loud and the anxiety really started to take over. But I think that if you can make friends and you can think about the gift of silence, how healing, as you say, but nourishing it can be.
Oh yeah. One of the things that I think I started doing with those voices is having a new dialogue with them.
Okay.
One of the things I have a tendency to do is think about the worst thing that could happen.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Like, it's just, and then suddenly I think in the pandemic with, like, toilet paper's gone, like a lot of the food is gone. And I've got friends
There's
that are
no flour.
there was no yeast for a long time. And I already had a husband that loved baking. So like, I was just like, yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh, okay, now I'm just without bread. So come on. I think I started asking, like, okay, so yeah, it goes wrong. What's the worst thing that's going to happen now? What, I can't handle it?
Right.
And I have been through a lot already in my life that I'm good with discussing. Why is it I'm not good with discussing it with myself?
Right.
So when I also have another tendency, as I'm sure a lot of other people with anxiety do, to think about people are talking about you.
Oh yeah. Like,
Oh,
what did I do wrong? And they must clearly hate me.
yeah, exactly. What are they saying to other people? Oh my gosh. I said something to someone a little while ago, and it was, oh my gosh, I think I had said no to something she suggested. It was obviously polite. I wasn't like, no, but
Right.
no, but I did lay the boundary of just, no, I
You
had
turn
gone.
something down.
Exactly. Like what humans do.
Yes.
We are allowed to say no. And I think in my head, I amused the idea that she was going around telling people about like what I had done. And I thought for a second, like, no, let's play that scenario out in my head. Yeah, she did tell everybody. What's my response?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did say no. And I suddenly felt this guilt just go away. I started to feel less guilty. And I felt less guilty about not doing anything during the pandemic.
You just made my chest or my stomach constrict and then open a little bit, because I was listening to you, and I'm getting all tense when you're talking about saying no and setting the boundaries, and then to be able to kind of play that out in your head. I felt myself relax as you were explaining it, but
Yeah.
it's really, really difficult. Why is it that we tend to, when we want to take care of ourselves, it's more important that we don't let other people down. And then if we've let them down, then suddenly they're never going to ask us for help again. And then that's a horrible place to be. It's like this vicious kind of, I've got to say yes to everything so that they keep asking.
Right.
If I
You
say
know,
no once, you hate me and you're going to stop asking. And then I'll have no relationships.
oh, absolutely.
Right?
Exactly. And that's just not the truth.
No, it's not.
So, I already think that we are overly connected, not in a bad way, but just as that we already as humans have a lot of accountability toward our relationships, toward the people that we know online. We've certainly got FOMO that goes around, imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
We have got all of this happening at the moment, and it's certainly more at the forefront now, that I think to let someone down is just, it's heart-wrenching and it's heartbreaking. But I remember someone in my life had said something really nice to me, and it was you're no good to me if you're no good to yourself.
Right.
And she quickly followed that up with, you are not a shot of tequila. You cannot please everybody. Okay. I appreciated that. I did. I was like, wow, it was so nice to hear. And I was like, dang, okay, that's fine with me. Cool. So no.
Did you find peace in that when you heard that?
I did. To have someone so close in my life tell me that I need to come.
Tequila.
Yeah, exactly. You're not tequila. All right. Nothing. I know. I really treasured that. To have someone so close in my life tell me that reassured me and affirmed me in my relationships, that I was actually able to close off my social circle.
Wow.
I heard that spoon theory come out. You only have so many spoons to give.
Right.
That I realized that my drawer only has so many spoons. Why do I need to go out and please everybody in the world?
Why do you need to buy more spoons?
Exactly. I don't have the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have enough. Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I don't want to do it.
And to get to that point though, what has that, so you've gotten to this place of some measure of peace that you're not going to please everybody. What has this freed you up to do?
Good question. I actually have recently decided to put my company on hiatus for a new twist, because I don't think I was ever really happy with what I was producing.
Okay.
Because I was truly worried about pleasing everybody when it came to my theater and what I want to produce. And art in general is something to be shared. It's not something totally just for you. It's a piece of you that you're willing to share and put out.
Right.
And it's something that I've always wanted to invite people on, but I never knew what exactly the vehicle was that I wanted to invite them on.
Right.
having this piece now, I've actually have felt less guilty about not producing anything.
Mm-hmm.
I have felt less guilty about the form of art I want to put out there.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to focus more on my podcast. I love my podcast. I love my co-host. I love the little community we've built for ourselves, and I love knowing I'm a part of somebody else's life. Like we've had somebody message us saying, I can't fall asleep without listening to your podcast. It was the greatest feeling.
That's lovely.
It was so encouraging and beautiful that why would I not want to extend that into what I write? Why would I rob myself and other people of that?
Mm-hmm.
I produced my first show in 2016. And although I loved the subject matter and I loved making people laugh, someone wrote a review that was just basically, it was a glib show. It was okay. Mm-hmm. And I took that to heart at first, but maturing in who I am, I realized that no, they're right, because that wasn't me. That was shallow. And it was me saying, I have to produce something. I have something to do. I know I can do this. And it's great that I did it. I've got the experience of 3 shows. I've had grants. I've had, I've done media releases. That's great. But I have nothing to take away from that in terms of who I am. So the piece that it's brought me to be able to go, I can come back to that show comfortably, or I don't have to. That's the beauty of it. I can come and go. There's no timeline here.
That's a really lovely place to be. And it's interesting as I'm listening to you, because when you are an anxious person, and we were just talking a few minutes ago about wondering, what people are thinking about us and so on, that's a huge breakthrough to be able to look at that feedback or even criticism or the review, however it was phrased to you, and actually say, there's some truth there and that's okay. And I didn't fall apart.
Right.
That's a very, very difficult place to be. I haven't really gotten there, I don't think. I would love to be able to do what I preach. I always preach to people, accept gentle feedback. I teach storytelling. Mm-hmm. So when people are sharing their stories with me, I offer gentle feedback. And I often wonder, as I'm instructing, what would I do if they gave me feedback of my own story?
Right.
Would I be able to talk, a good game? So for you to be able to reflect on that, especially something that you produce, something that, whether it was from the heart or not, it was yours. Mm-hmm. It sounds like you learned from that and put it where it belongs.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is I thought for the anxiety that goes through your head when you get a bad review, I had a breakdown. I was upset. I was just, oh my gosh, I was freaking out. That's it. I'm done in this city. And I had 1 or 2 choices. I could fall apart and allow it to happen and just, and sulk. Mm-hmm. Or what I could do is take a breath, accept it happened. You can't change that person. They didn't enjoy the show. That's fine. The work that I have to do to be okay with that in this industry is on me. Right. People are not going to spoon feed you in the arts community. You need to be ready to do the work. The work absolutely relies on vulnerability, and it relies on maybe criticism you don't agree with. You can take it or leave it. But the choice to be able to let it go, mm-hmm. and still stick with my show, still stick with the people that were a part of this journey with me, was way more beautiful than having a positive review, because the relationships that I made, the affirmation in myself, knowing that I've loved theater my entire life, I've always known this is something I want to do, was way better for me than having a positive review, sold out shows, and that it just was more meaningful this way. Because look at this, I'm going to produce something in the future. I know it's coming, just it'll come.
Right. Yeah. So there is something to that, philosophy that everything has its time.
Yeah.
Does your strength surprise you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I do not think I'm as strong as I am, but I think when I look back on the times where maybe I was strong, I I feel like I was doing an obstacle course and I kept stumbling on everything, and like I've got twigs in my hair and like everything, but and like I'm just a mess, like what did I just do? But like I'm here, right? I finished.
Yes.
And that in itself is strength, because I could have just gave up in the course. I could have gave up, but I didn't want to. And yeah, there were times I probably laid down on that course for like a little too long,
Right.
but it's still the fact that I did manage to get up out of bed. I did manage to take a shower. At some point.
Yeah. And I think that's beautiful. And I think that, so many of us, especially those of us that deal with or manage, we'll say manage mental health issues or
Right.
manage mental illness. There's also the added layer of shame sometimes that goes along with that.
Oh yeah.
I'm embarrassed that I have anxiety, or, this bipolar disorder makes me, a terrible person, and I shouldn't, I don't have the right to do A, B, C, or D. But to be
Right.
able to manage and still be standing is brave. And I think so many of us don't give ourselves the credit
Right.
that we deserve.
Absolutely. And it's just you're allowed to do that.
Yep.
You don't have to receive accolades for what you did and big awards to know that you did this.
Yes.
Taking ownership of who you are and not allowing these moments to define you. Your life is going to be made up of millions of moments.
Yes.
Why would you allow your tapestry to be just the moments you failed and that's it? You are more than that.
That's beautiful. You need to put that on a greeting card.
I will. I'm going to do that now.
No, that's your next project, greeting cards.
Oh, there we go. I know. Here comes my Etsy shop.
There you go. There you go. Right?
Yeah.
No, but that's beautiful, because we do hone in on the blips in the road, instead of, looking at the fact that we're still standing and we're still able to produce things, whatever that happens to be. It's really heartening, because I think especially those of us that manage with anxiety, it can feel crippling.
Yes. Yeah. The worst, I think one of the worst periods in my life, and I'm not embarrassed anymore to admit it. I used to be, but I'm not. I didn't shower for 2 weeks.
Wow.
I didn't get out of bed for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
My husband, who was then my fiance, we come home, I'm still in bed, still in my pajamas. The same episode of The Office is just going back and forth.
Yep. Oh, comfort TV, right?
Oh yeah.
For me, it's Drag Race. RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah, absolutely.
On loop.
Oh yeah. Cover girl.
Yep. You know it. Yep.
Yeah. Like I'm not, I didn't have the greatest of relationships at the time. I lost friends because I wasn't communicating with them, and I almost lost my job. I was producing a show I was not proud of at the time. To look back on where I am now is to not appreciate who I am now.
Right.
And I heard some great advice a little while ago from a TED Talk, and I'm trying to remember who it was. So if I find it, I'll message you. But it was, love doesn't give advice, it just gives you a glass of water. Beautiful.
That's
stunning.
Awesome. Stunning.
So
yes.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And when I kept thinking about that, and I'm meditating with myself, and like I was turning to God. I was praying. I was asking, please help me. And it was, all I kept getting is just go get a glass of water.
Yeah.
Go, just take a wipe and wash your face. Go do something. Yeah. And it's these little steps of, it's like you wouldn't ask somebody who's got a horrible, horrible flu to get up while they're sick and labored breathing, to get up and go for a walk. You're going to ask them when their fever has gone down. Yes. When they're able to open their eyes a bit more. And I think having that compassion, just compassion toward yourself, is so key in those dark moments.
That it's just a beautiful, it's a beautiful thought, and it's a beautiful way of looking at it. So as we get close to the end here, because I always ask people, what would you want to leave viewers with? So in that vein, what you're just talking about, what would be a Jessism that we should
Ooh,
know, or we should
yeah.
take from watching this?
Trying to mix all my greeting card information and
Yes,
all my little
do
things
it.
here. Okay. Your tapestry is not just your failure. It's the compassion you're going to give yourself and others around you that
Yeah.
builds a strong border. And I think the more that we embrace the frayed edges,
Yeah.
that's where we know where the strengthening can happen. Just because something's weak doesn't mean it can't be repaired. But maybe something doesn't need to be repaired. Maybe it just needs to be built on. Maybe you just missed a stitch.
Oh, yes. Maybe we just missed a stitch. And if you missed a stitch, you can always go back.
There's always ways to fix them. There's always
Beautiful.
ways to build.
Beautiful. Oh, I'm so glad we got the chance
Me
to talk. And I'm
too.
so sorry about technology at the beginning, but you know what? That was a missed stitch. We just went back and built on it.
Exactly. And now look at the
So
conversation we had.
it's almost like we did it on purpose.
Almost.
It's so good chatting with you, Jess.
It's so awesome. Thank you for having me.
Okay, I'll let you know when we post.
Yay!
Okay, bye.
Bye.
That was lovely. That was Jess McAuley. And sorry about the blip in the beginning, but you know what? This is part of our tapestry, and sometimes we miss a stitch, but this is an opportunity. It was an opportunity to go back and tighten it up a little bit. So I do hope you enjoyed the conversation and that you really took from it some compassion, especially if you are dealing with an anxiety disorder, which can be so crippling sometimes. And believe me, I speak from experience. So that was a great conversation with Jess, and so many little tidbits to take away. So thank you very much. And as always, be well.